this on? That one on. Okay. Here. You can re-engineer that one for me. Okay. Thank you all for joining us for this colloquium, and I'll sit down in a second, on Albert Dorman and leadership. Here, I want to first introduce our panel here. And I want to say, in order to honor a legend, you need to call on legends and legends in the making. So I will begin here in the middle with Bob Hillier. Bob is a member of the NJIT Board of Directors and a member of the Albert Dorman Honors College Board of Visitors. He was the first chair of the Dorman College Board of Visitors in 1995 and has served on the board ever since. Bob founded Hillier Architecture in 1966, and in 2007, Hillier Architecture merged with RMJM of Scotland, and the company became the third largest architectural firm in the world. The Hillier firm received over 300 state, national, and international design awards in its history. Bob and his late wife, Barbara, are Colton Society members, and the Colton Society recognizes NJIT's most generous benefactors. In May of 2019, NJIT renamed the College of Architecture and Design after Bob and his wife in honor of their commitment and generosity to NJIT. He was awarded an honorary doctorate by NJIT in 2017. Dick Sweeney is an alumnus of NCE, NJIT, class of 1981. Before attending NJIT, he served in the United States Army and was awarded the Silver Star for gallantry for his service in Vietnam. He is Emeritus Chair of the Albert Dorman Honors College Board of Visitors, on which he served for over 2 decades, or nearly 2 decades? Nearly 2 decades, and led as chair. Dick is co-founder and former vice president of Keurig Green Mountain Coffee. He served as vice president of engineering and operations at Keurig, where he was responsible for the development of the Keurig system and contributed to several U.S. And international appliance packaging and automation patents. Dick and his wife, Marianne, have been generous supporters of the Dorman Honors College and NJIT, endowing multiple scholarships, enabling the education of dozens, if not hundreds, of Dorman scholars over the years. Dick was awarded an honorary doctorate from NJIT in 2018 and received the University Award for Entrepreneurship Leadership in 2006 and was listed in the 2018 NJIT Top Influencers. He is also a member of the Colton Society. Dan Henderson, who should be joining us online, I hope.
I'm here.
Dan Henderson is joining us online. It's not able to join us in person this morning due to a significant health matter. But Dan is a great friend of the college. Dan is a sculptor, an inventor, an entrepreneur who holds 31 U.S. patents and is a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors. Dan has been recognized by the Lemelson Foundation at MIT as one of the most influential inventors of the previous century. An early model of his device for picture, voice, and text in a portable phone. We have a better word for that now. In a portable phone is in the Smithsonian. Dan has served on the Dorman College Board of Visitors for over 2 decades, and he was recognized by NJIT with an honorary doctorate in 2012. Dan is also a member of the Colton Society. And Duraj Shah. Duraj Shah is a Dorman Honors College alumnus, class of 2000. Duraj graduated with a degree in computer information systems. In 2006, so I never realized it was so soon after you graduated. In 2006, Duraj founded AVAP, an industry-focused cross-platform management and technology consulting company. Since then, AVAP has grown to over 400 employees with multiple offices in the United States and an office in Chennai, India. In 2022, Duraj became general partner of Primera Capital, located in San Francisco. Duraj served on the Board of Visitors of the Dorman Honors College for 5 years before joining NJIT's Board of Trustees and the Board of Directors for NJI. He's the first honors alumnus to serve in those roles. He was the benefactor of the Faculty Fellows. He was the first benefactor for the Faculty Fellows program in the Dorman Honors College and helped us really launch that program. Shri Ganisetti, no pressure, Shri. Shri Ganisetti is a current Dorman Honors Scholar, class of 2025, majoring in electrical and computer engineering technology. Shri is in her second term as president of the Honors Scholars Council. And in her 2 years as council president, she has led initiatives to solicit greater input from the Dorman scholars into the life of the college, has revitalized honors socials in our post-pandemic period here, has traveled to the National Collegiate Honors Council conferences multiple times to represent the Dorman College, and has helped lead the effort to revise our first-year retreat into a city-as-text model to allow the first-year scholars to explore our home city of Newark. So just to, having introduced our panel here, just to get us started, how is our technology working for Dan?
I can hear you, if you can hear me.
Ah, brilliant. There you are, Dan. So Dan, thank you for joining us remotely. Do you want to get us started here this morning, afternoon?
I'd be delighted. Thank you very much. I first visited NJIT in 1994, a year before the founding of the Dorman Honors College. And in fact, the tie that I'm wearing today was given to me by my friend and then President Saul Finster, who worked with Al Dorman to create the Dorman Honors College the following year. I was invited by Dr. Joel Bloom, and Joel and Diane, if you're there, hello, to join the Board of Visitors and serve the Albert Dorman Honors College 22 years ago. I've shared many moments with Joan and Al Dorman over the years, and they really became treasured friends and role models for me. Al Dorman established several important traditions for the Honors College: to embrace divergent perspectives and opinions, to be engaged and impactful in everything that we do, to give service to others, and to lead by example. Only Al Dorman could bring together inventors, architects, civil engineers, mathematicians, artists, computer scientists, and industry leaders in one room to discuss a common goal and to make the world better than when we found it. Today I'm privileged to have my remarks about Dr. Al Dorman included with our distinguished panelists and attendees, many of whom have become valued friends and colleagues. I want to thank Joel and Diane Bloom, President Tech Lim, Dean Hamilton, Bob Hilliard, Dick Sweeney, and so many others I've had the pleasure and privilege of knowing and working with in our service to the Honors College. The Honors College continues to be transformative to NJIT as a shining beacon under the vision and leadership established by Al Dorman back in 1995. I recall once that Al Dorman had not been feeling well for quite some time, and to all of our surprise, he still found it important enough to fly out for that meeting where he provided his guidance and wisdom about the matters at hand. Afterwards, I asked Al how he was feeling, and with his signature wit and a twinkle in his eye, he replied, "I'm not in bad shape for the shape that I'm in. Due to a serious health concern, I'm not in good enough shape today to join all of you. However, the shape that I'm in is profoundly better from knowing Al Dorman and the lessons that he taught us all at the Dorman Honors College. I thank you all for gathering to honor our friend, Al Dorman, for the impactful legacy and roadmap for the future that he left for all of us. Thank you for allowing me to celebrate with you remotely today."
Thank you so much, Dan. We are all thinking of you here. You're a great friend of the college and of NJIT. So turning now to our panelists, so this will be a free for all. We've got a lot of executives here, so we'll take turns. But so I just wanted to begin the conversation here just by for those of you who got the chance to meet Al. Can you tell us about the first time you met Al and what your kind of first impressions of him? We were talking about this morning a little bit, but
I had a excuse me. It's good to be here. At my age, it's good to be any place. I met Al under the most interesting circumstances. And out of it all, he became a lifetime mentor to me. The circumstances were that I had started my firm in 1966, and we were moving along at a good pace, and I had about 25 architects working for me. And there was an ad in the architectural in the architecture record, and it was a full-page ad, and it said, if you're interested in growing your career, please send a letter. And they gave you an address in Los Angeles. And so I answered the letter. And the next thing I know, I got a call from Al introducing himself. And he said he wanted to meet with me in New York. And we were both, he was working and I was working, and we put together a time to meet, which was at 10:30 at night at the Drake Hotel in New York City. So, and it turned out he always stayed at the Drake Hotel. And so I found my way to New York and went into the Drake Hotel, and we met in his room, and we chatted, and he told me all about not RMJM, DMJM, and which was known as Dim Jim at the time. And he was a principal, but he wasn't on the letterhead. And it was interesting, and yet he seemed to be really the general manager. And he wanted me to come out to LA and meet everybody. And that sounded pretty attractive to me, so I went out and I met the four partners, Daniel Mann, Johnson, and Mendenhall, and had a really good time with them and enjoyed LA. And they asked me if I would be interested in joining them. And I said, yes, I thought I would be. And so it was agreed that I would probably be joining them, and I went home, and I went to see my father and told him this news. And he said, are you crazy? He said, you've just started, and who knows where you can go, and what you've already done is worth a lot more money than they could possibly pay you. And so that was fine. And then all of a sudden, an accountant showed up from Dim Jim, and he put an offer in front of me, and the offer was kind of pitiful. And so I started to rethink what my father had said, and I had to call Al and tell him I was changing my mind. He could not have been more gracious about it. It was amazing how he just said, well, good. I'm glad you've made your mind up, and I wish you all the best. What was interesting is he stayed in touch with me, and when and this is where my whole NJIT thing got started, is I met Joel because Al, when they were putting together the honors college, and he named me as the first head of the college. And I thought, wow, that was really nice of him. And so I met Joel, and we had a good time getting the honors college started. And it was a little bit, I have to tell you, just divert for 1 second, I have to tell you that we did the architecture school, but we did the first, second, third, and fourth architecture schools as it grew. And the first architecture school, they took me up to a gymnasium in the top of one of the buildings around here and said, this is the School of Architecture. We have 20 students, make it a school. Years after that, they're expanding again, and then all of a sudden, we got to do the new school, which now has my wife's Barbara's name and mine on it. And so, anyway, I have to tell you a couple things about Al. We were in the Atlanta airport, and I was going in to pick up my bag, and lo and behold, there's Al and Joan picking up their baggage in the Atlanta airport. Small world connection. And also, I have to tell you that at one point he was in Princeton. He called me up, and he said, "Let's have dinner." I said, "Why don't you come to my house and have dinner?" He said, "I'd love to." And he came, and we just had a wonderful evening. So my whole life has been marked by unlikely endeavors and encounters with Al at different places in the world. And when Barbara and I had the school named after us, he called me in the most gracious way and congratulated me and thanked me. And then he sent me a wonderful letter about it also. So he's just been a lifetime inspiration to me about doing good, but also just being a gentleman all the time. And I've learned a lot from just his style. It was wonderful. So thank you.
Dick, you want to go?
Sure. Well, the connecting point is Joel, as usual. And my background is a little different. I came back from Vietnam in 1968, had no idea what to do, worked as a UPS driver, got laid off, needed an income, so I took a job as an assembler in a factory. And almost instantly, I became totally intrigued with the whole process of manufacturing, that raw material comes in one door, 200 people do stuff, and a product goes out the other door. What makes all that happen? And somebody suggested, well, if you're interested in that, you ought to check out industrial engineering at NCE at the time. So I'm from the New Jersey area, so NCE was always up there, very impressive. But I was a bold veteran and made application, and then about 2 weeks later, received my rejection notice. And they recognized I had not been a scholar in high school. But I was a little tenacious and went back and said, look, I have the GI Bill, you'll get paid. If you give me a seat, and if you're right, I'm out of here in a semester, and if I'm right, you'll get a graduation fee. So that was in 1971, I think. In 1982, they got the graduation fee. But not long after that, I guess it was a while after that, I started this, co-founded this silly coffee company, you know. Back in 1993, 4, 5, everybody was getting venture capital money by having .com something. You could have .com blankety blank, and they'd throw $1 million at you. And we're coming into these really elaborate offices and saying, you know, we'd like a couple of $1 million because we have a great idea to make a cup of coffee out of a salad dressing cup. So they looked at us wondering what planet we were from. Needless to say, we did manage to get Keurig started, and it's become an incredible company and still listed as one of the best companies to work for. And with all of the personal success I've had with it, the thing I really take a great deal of pride in is that I've had the opportunity in my career to help incubate something that's created jobs. So that's pretty cool. I think there are like 25,000 people plus that are working today for Keurig Dr. Pepper. But sometime after Keurig's early success, Dr. Bloom and Dr. Dietz reached out to me. I will leave it at that, Joel. And they were, the Honors College was getting in the way. Joel was the dean of the Honors College, and he said, how would you like to be on the Board of Visitors? I said, sure. I mean, that's, from whence I came, that was an amazing kick in my ego, to be quite honest, and yet a challenge, because had NCE at the time not taken a chance and allowed me to have a seat for a semester, he wouldn't have been talking to me. And a lot of people wouldn't have spoke to me. So we said, sure, I'd love to do it. And he said, well, you'll have to meet Al Dorman. And he'll be in town, and we're having dinner over at President Holton Kirk's house. And I first, not having met Al, knowing only a little bit by reputation, I was terrified. I thought, I'm being vetted by this guy. You know, talk about having imposter syndrome. I thought, what am I doing here with these presidents of universities and deans and, you know, the one who got accepted on probation, probably graduated on probation. But with all that said, Al was extraordinarily gracious, receptive, inquisitive, serious, and caring, and most importantly, well, before most importantly, he immediately had some recognition from my military service, which if you were a veteran back in the 60s, you weren't really recognized for your military service, but humble. And Al was always very humble. What can we do to help? How are we going to build something? Where are we going to get the resources? And more importantly, what do you need? I'll help you get the resources. Early on in my, as just a member of being a member of the Board of Visitors, a lot of the conversation was, how do we increase enrollment? How do we expand this? And I just quietly spoke up. I said, well, how can we expand it if we don't have a broader spectrum of honors colleges and we don't have the other colleges within the university buying into the whole concept of the honors program? And Al was endeared to me from that point on. He said, that's right, that's what we have to do. With that, a lot of initiatives took place, were incubated. It took time for the initiatives to fall in place. And I know Joel followed up with a lot of them, and on to Lewis, who has done a remarkable job. You know, in the Board of Visitors, the chairman at the time when I came on board was Richard Bowles, and then Steve Cordes. And I think Steve said, I'd like you to be my vice chairman. I said, only as long as you're staying on as chairman, because I was trying to get this crazy coffee company going. And that's kind of been the background. So fast forward, Joel has become the interim president of the university, and we had an interim dean of the Honors College, John, whose name escapes me, the delightful guy. But the recruiting was still going on. The search was going on, which eventually landed us with Dean Hamilton. And I had a call from Al saying, what do you think about this guy, Lewis Hamilton? I said, well, I met him. He's, you know, he seems very good credentials. He's credible. Yeah, but he doesn't have a STEM background. I said, but he's got a great academic background, and he's built some terrific things at other schools. He said, well, all right, but stay close to him, will you? And Lewis and I have become great friends, and Al and Joel are the benefits. And I've met so many incredible students, colleagues at the podium, but most importantly, the most impressive group of students that one can ever hope to encounter. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dick. Yes, if you thought you were staying close to me, I was sidling up next to you all the time. So he did notice I didn't have a STEM background, huh? Immediately, yeah. So, sure. Diraj, you got the chance to meet Al as well.
I did, and I was just reflecting on that, but I want to thank everybody for coming in today. You know, as Dean Hamilton was saying, legends on my right, legend on making in the left. I'm the lucky guy in the middle, right? So my wife and I met Al and Joan 2017 when I first joined the Board of Visitors of Albert Dorman Honors College. And it was really a dream come true because I came here in 1996 as one of the first classes of the Albert Dorman Honors College. And the scholarship is what enticed me to come attend college here. So it was a very big moment. And we're going to visit them. It was a beautiful blue sky day, which is most common in LA, Santa Monica. And we go to their home. We spend, you know, the first half an hour just talking at their home. And then he says, we'll go out for lunch. I said, sure. I tried to get my car because I'm thinking Al's 91, right? I just assumed that I'm going to be driving. Bad assumption, right? He immediately said, no, no, I'm driving. So you can read about Al Dorman and see that he's had a remarkable life, right, as an individual. But you look at the three pillars, that day, Nam and I were able to walk away to actually experience a piece of that remarkable life on his individuality, the things that he's done, from his family's perspective, the love that he carries and the tight family. We actually have Al's daughter, Laura, here, who I got a chance to speak. So, let's give her a hand, too, that she came all the way from LA to come here. And how close they are as a family, right? That's the legacy we hear. And then the third is a community. And I think most of us would not be here had Al Dorman not seeded the idea of having an honors college. So I walked away with a profound sense after that day of what a remarkable life is and the joy of giving back and, trying to do my little piece through the learnings. I was telling Laura how much I regret never having met Al after. We communicated via email several times, but when he came to New Jersey, I was traveling, and it's a regret I'll carry. And I'll share that with you so you don't ever have that regret, because you have a lot of very accomplished individuals here, right? Take that chance to meet and learn as you start your journey. Because, the best way you can learn is from others than to go through it yourself. Thank you.
I think if we can bring in Dan quickly, just for there, excellent work. So I think we have to mute our microphone. I know. Our microphone. Oh, I was just muted. We'll mute our microphones and let Dan kind of about your first time meeting Al.
I'm happy to. I share some of the comments that Dick mentioned earlier. Great sense of trepidation. He had a steely grip in a handshake, and he had this piercing look. He could see everything that you've ever done, everything that you failed to do. But he also saw, not only in me, but in everyone, the possibilities of what you were capable of. And he challenged you. And I felt this immense sense of gravity in joining the board. I also will point out, as it was pointed out earlier, he raised concerns about Lewis Hamilton not having a STEM background. But I also will share that Joel Bloom, there were similar concerns raised about his background as well. I think we can all agree, though, and we should give them both a round of applause for their tremendous leadership, and it just proves a point. That would be the most telling thing. And ever since then, I've been really mantled with that sense of shared responsibility that we all have to follow the direction leadership that Al kind of pointed our star towards. And it has really been exciting over the last several decades to see how NJIT has transformed now into an R1. And I credit a lot of that, I think, to good leadership, to great vision, and led by the Honors College. So I could not be more proud or grateful for the opportunity to play a small role in that.
People can feel Dan here. Ask him to describe some of his physical contributions to this campus. I don't know if people realize who did all of that that's around this campus.
I think, Dan, if you heard the question, so we will make you describe, if you could describe some of the incredible installations you have on campus that we all enjoy so much here. There's, I think, about 6 or 8 of your pieces are on campus now. So,
Well, I try not to have a big head, so you'll have to envision that those rocks came out of this head of mine and put them to good use. Uh, but yeah, that certainly I think is a good example of one of the things that Al really drove home: multidisciplinary collaboration, divergent opinions, and really bringing a lot of different disciplines and viewpoints on the world. In that particular case, the body of work for sculpture was created after I had invented picture and video messaging in cell phones that we all use today back in 1993. And then in 2006, when Saddam Hussein was executed at the gallows, and then we saw that the prison guard, you may recall, had surreptitiously filmed that, and it was all over the internet for our children to see, not only the adult consumers of that. And it made me realize that there are unintended consequences to any new technology, some very good and exciting, and some very nefarious and very negative. And even now today, we are faced at that crossroad with AI and contemplating how that will shape our future and how we interact with one another. So I'm happy that we have permanent objects that reflect a temporal technology, in various instances, a camera, a radio, a gas pump, as we merge from fossil fuels to electrical vehicles and other technologies, but that they have lasting permanent impact on all of us as humans. And so that couldn't have a better home than there at NJIT. So I'm very, very happy that it could be there. And thanks again to Joel for helping me to make that happen.
They are a beautiful contribution to campus. There are three beautiful pieces in the Agile Strategy Lab, and I know there's a lot of important university meetings that take place in the Agile Strategy Lab, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has gotten through those meetings by contemplating those beautiful pieces, Dan. So we're deeply grateful for them on multiple levels. I will tell the story briefly of my first meeting Al Dorman, because it became a bit of a shock to me, because I came in, I had just been hired, and so I came to the April board meeting just to say hi. I thought it was going to be like, hi, I don't have a STEM degree, apparently was what I was there to say. And
had the T-shirt.
a T-shirt. That's right, I've upgraded since the T-shirt. And so I was told that I had this good news. I had the opportunity to meet Al Dorman, who was over with Joel in Fenster Hall, and so that took me by surprise, first of all, and then brought back into the inner sanctums of the president's suite there to meet Al and Joel, and just what delightful people Joel they were, and it was just wonderful to kind of meet them, and simultaneously incredibly intimidating, and kind of knowing that feeling pretty strongly at that point that I had gotten in very deep at that stage, but contracts had already been signed. Okay. Next up, Sarah. For the two of you, I had the chance to work with them, and Dan as well, for a chance to work with him on the board. So what was it? So you were the chair of the board when he was on the board. Right. What was that like? What was it like to work with Al kind of on the board?
I think he had a vision. He just had a vision on what he wanted the Honors College to be, and he would just keep expressing it, and we kept trying to deliver it, and it was that simple. I would like to say, can I divert for 1 second? One thing that really amazed me was that when I was first talking to him, he had what he was doing was brilliant from a marketing standpoint with his company, because he had basically, like, I turned him down, but he ended up owning several architectural firms across the country. And with his sister, who was somewhat of a corporate planner or negotiator or whatever. She was an entrepreneur herself, but he let them keep their names, and on their letterhead there was this in very fine print, an AECOM company. Very fine print. Otherwise, it was the Thomas Jones architectural firm. And so all those firms were operating under their own names for years until the new leadership took over and they moved the firm to Dallas, and then they said everything's got to be AECOM. And now it's a whole different animal from a marketing standpoint. And it has a whole different set of challenges than it didn't have when it was just a bunch of little companies with their own name. And I just thought that was so smart of him because they were local and he was getting that local business, and yet they were all under his umbrella. So.
What was it like working?
Al had, a couple of words of energy, intelligence, integrity, and this humility that just came across with anything you worked on. And he would present an idea, a vision, a dream, and set that bar at a high level, and yet he would draw you in to the point where you said, we've got to make this happen. We cannot disappoint him. He would set expectations on us that were broader than the expectations we had of ourselves, and we exceeded in an exponential fashion. And I'm running out of alliterations at that point. But no, he just set a high bar, and you wouldn't in any way do anything to let him down or disappoint him, because you'd be letting yourself down. And he could convey that, and you would internalize that vision, and it was always a remarkable, terrific vision. That's why we're all sitting here speaking of him, and we'll be speaking about him for generations.
Amen to that. And Dan, if you can hear us, what was your experience like working with him on the board?
One of the things that I really admire, and I have to echo the comments that Dick made, there was a deep sense of humility, and it was never about Al Dorman, but it was about the vision that Al Dorman shared. And I think really every board meeting that I attended, and working with the fellow board members and also with the students, right? That's why we do this, is for the students, and that's why it has grown and been so successful. But I've always felt like each board meeting, each interaction, I always felt like I was better as a human being, and I grew as a professional. And it was a big pair of shoes to fill, to not show up for a meeting when someone in their 90s was guaranteed to be there flying across the country. I felt a profound sense of duty to be there and not let him down. And that's one of the things that I hope is going to endure, because that is what gives the Honors College its energy and the vitality that will continue on as in future generations, and why this little place in Newark, New Jersey could become one of the top 10 honors colleges in the country. Very impressive. And so, yeah, that would be my 2 cents on it.
I want to turn our attention now kind of to Shri and Diraj here. And so for Diraj, how has, and for Shri, how is your experience in the Honors College, helping shape you as a leader?
Okay, got Especially ever since I came into the council, I started as a freshman representative, part of Honors Scholar Council, and really working with the whole Honors College administration really showed how Albert Dorman's legacy kind of still is heard through the institution itself. I've learned to not only lead, but lead with compassion. And that's something the Dorman family really is continuing to this day. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to meet Mr. Dorman, but I've had the chance to meet with Miss Laura Dorman, his daughter, Richard Dorman, his son, as well as grandson Joshua Dorman. And just seeing how generations of the Dorman family are still continually engaged and invested into this honors college is very inspiring to me and the rest of our scholars as well. They're very committed to seeing scholars generation as cohorts come in and as the college gets bigger on how we're achieving. And I know Dr. Blue mentioned this earlier today, but as a tech school, we're very focused on numbers. We're all about statistics, the mathematical sciences, but I remember having a conversation with Dean Hamilton at one of our usual meetings, and he mentioned that Albert Dorman never asked for statistics. You know, what % of our scholars are placing in top 500 companies? What % of our scholars are, what are their GPAs? It's about how are they graduating and are they coming back to the community and making an impact? And seeing these kind of role models really inspired me. And that's why early on into my freshman year, I started really getting involved in the leadership stage. And now as my second year as president of the Honors Scholar Council, even though things are coming to an end, I know that this is not the end. There are so many ways one can lead. And it's not really about the title, it's about the quality of the impact you make, regardless of that title. It's about your actions. There's no one small action. And I think Albert Dorman did an amazing way of, just through his life and representing that.
So, going back when my journey started, Albert Dorman Honors College was just starting. And I was talking to Dr. Bloom. He was our first dean. And the office, or the Albert Dorman Honors College, was essentially the chemical room in Tiernan Hall. So if you walk into Tiernan Hall, that little chemical, that was the college, all of it, right? So we used to go in, and Dr. Bloom had an office, and I'll never forget. And look at where it is today from a college perspective, right? I know we have Mr. Martinson here, and he's given a very generous pledge to help get the dorm. So if you don't like your dorms, you can talk to him, right? Just in case. But one of the things that the Albert Dorman Honors College going back, I'll never forget, we had an experiment tie-up with NASA. And we were doing a payload experiment where we were sending up payloads in the sky. And those kind of experiences weren't, I transferred from Fairleigh Dickinson. And it was a huge difference because of a lot of the programs and donations that were given to Albert Dorman Honors College. And today, from our position to see not only the growth, what I can tell you is if you've seen the NJIT strategic plan for 2030, Albert Dorman Honors College is right at the center of that nexus, right? We've grown from like 20 students to 600, right? From that one little room to 2 buildings, but that's going to continue to grow because, all of us see this as the shining, and all of you, you'll be here someday in 10, 20, 30 years, and you'll come back and say, oh, remember we just had that one little dorm, and now look where we are. But that's a progression, and that's a legacy that will continue. And I hope you're taking advantage of all the things that exist today. The partnership with NJIT, VentureLink. There are many things that are available today, especially for the program abroad that Dean Hamilton fought to kind of put in place. And going to Italy and learning is such a great experiential learning. So I encourage all of you to continue, as that'll just be great building blocks.
Thank you. And so So just for all the panelists here, and it is true, kind of, maybe now I realize maybe Al didn't think I could do the math, but so he wasn't asking me about numbers, but he was really concerned about how our scholars were giving back, how our scholars were becoming leaders, what their commitments were to the university and to the community that surrounds them, and that was a real driving portion of our conversations. And so, for all of our panelists, what advice do you think Al would give to our Dorman scholars and to all of us here about, what really makes a good leader?
A good leader will build great teams. I learned this in the military as a ranger. But good leaders will be good team members. And one of the attributes we always look for on our teams were very simply heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So you want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. Comes in two flavors, good and bad, deal with it. But Al's message to every graduate of the student, both here and anywhere, is that if you have enjoyed a scholarship, as Dr. Lim has pointed out, it's a loan. You got to pay it back, and your time will come, and do it graciously and with enthusiasm. The one thing I do want to point out, and thank you for highlighting John Martinson. It wowed me when I first read of John's contribution to the school, and I thought, Air Force Academy grad, very involved with Purdue, an incredibly successful business career, and he selected NJIT. That speaks volumes for what this college is and where it's going. So thank you, John.
I think the key to leadership is empathy, and I think Al had a lot of empathy, and having an understanding of other people's feelings as you're dealing with them is so important. And the other thing about leadership is making it personal. As long as you have a personal relationship, not an email relationship, it's so much more valuable in terms of exercising leadership. But in doing that, you have to get the feeling back of, are you on the same wavelength with the person you're leading?
I think the key to being a leader is not being a leader. And what I mean by that is the ability to influence without authority. And I saw that with Al Dorman. He was having the right intent and not the ego. He was having the right partnership, but not from a perception of giving it from I'm senior than you are, right? And when you drive from that perspective is what I learned. If you can influence the outcome without having authority, that's the ultimate sense of leadership, where you can collaboratively drive great outcomes together.
That raises a good point. I found that you don't tell somebody what to do. You ask them, can you help me? And if you're asking them to help you, you're putting yourself at their level and saying, let's do something together. And that's what really brings people along with you. I've just found that saying, I want you to do this, doesn't get you anywhere near as far as, can you give me a hand? That's all.
Dovetailing with that, somewhere along the line, somebody told me, look, if you want information, don't ask questions that will put the other person on the defensive. Help me understand this, we'll get a lot more information than what the hell were you thinking? So, yeah, and if you want to learn to be a good leader, you have to learn how to play in traffic. Learn when to cross, when to stop, when to bob and weave. Look both ways. Know what your options are and your contingencies. Play in traffic. It'll help you in leadership.
Along the lines of that, I think Albert Dorman's advice to become the best leader you could be is be humble. Learn to learn from other people and stay grounded. There's so much more that you can learn. And I think you can see that in Albert Dorman's career. If he knew that he knew everything, he wouldn't be able to have reached the highest heights that he did. And that's something that's key to being a leader, being able to put yourself in others' shoes, having that empathy, and understanding that you won't have the answers to everything, and that's okay. It's important to reach out, get those resources so you can work together and build a really cool solution that will reach thousands of people. And it's having that humility that will make one stay grounded and also willing to learn new things. And I think that's what the Honors College really pushes forward. We're teaching students and urging them to go through all this kind of experiential learning. And that's really to get out there and understand that our little bubble isn't our whole world. There's so much more to explore. Hence why we promote study abroad, learning different cultures, meeting new people, getting out of the small bubble that we're in, and understanding that there are a lot more other issues that our technical education here that the NJIT offers, that we can use those skills and get out there and make constructive solutions and an actual difference in our lives that Albert Dorman, has started that legacy for and that we should continue to put forth.
Dan, if we can pull up Dan, sort of, what do you think Al would want us to take away as to what makes a good leader? Asking for a friend.
I will say there's probably no one more qualified than the panelists there to talk about leadership, but they all embody something that Al showed us in our tenure with the Honors College. And he'll be sorely missed in this regard. Here is a man that could work with kings, presidents, congressmen, senators, industry leaders, and yet he was at the exit giving advice, giving counsel, extending access to students and to all of us, sharing generously with his knowledge. And the lesson there was that he never viewed that any of what we do is transactional, but based upon relationships and collaboration. And it's a powerful force. I want to thank John Martinson as well. I've not had the pleasure, except by Zoom, to meet you, but that you put a stake in the ground and invested in the Honors College is a great investment that will yield tremendous leverage and rewards for this university moving forward for generations to come. That would be my parting shot on leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I really do believe that kind of, and from our conversations, my conversations with Al were focused around on the, on one, creating opportunities within the college for expanding the opportunities within the college. Who are we reaching in the community? Who are we bringing into the college? And then also, how are we reaching back out into the community? How are we being of service in the community? And as I was kind of thinking about all this in preparation today, I was reminded of something that Martin Luther King said, which is life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? What are you doing for others? And so my final kind of question for the panel here is, how do you think each of us can find a way, and how do you kind of continue to find a way? So how can each of us find a way that we can be of greatest service to society?
I don't know what the hell to say.
I'm going to tell stories about you. Don't make me tell. I'll tell you what you're doing right now for your service. So.
I think the biggest service you can do is what Al taught us, which is give back. Just give back. I think it's amazing that Jeff Bezos says he's going to make sure he gives all of his money back before he dies. And I think that's that's wonderful, a wonderful intent, frankly. And so I think it's just a matter of helping people realize their potential by just making it possible for them, which means you got to give back.
One thing before I forget, because, at my age, my doctor told me the good news is you'll never be diagnosed with early onset of anything. But we've been speaking about Al respectfully and with great acumen, but it was part of an equation, and it was Al and Joan, and I can think of only a handful of occasions where it was only Al. Joan was either always at the table, always just outside, in the line, listening, talking, meeting and greeting and welcoming everyone. So it's Al and Joan, we're the equation, and we're all honored to have known them. And what was the other question? How we give back.
How to greatest service to society. Yeah.
Greatest service to society. Just be a responsible citizen every day, regardless of where you're at. You're not the center of the universe. In fact, you're a speck. And had the honor early this month to be in the path of totality for the eclipse, and you realize, man, there's a whole lot going on out there, and we are really insignificant little blips of light. I'm retired now, and I became part of our local Rotary, which is just a good service organization. You find out what's going on in the community. You put out the picnic tables. You sell Christmas trees. You work on blood drives. And one of the things I did in retirement was to acquire a pilot's license. And last year, at the tender age of 75, I got my instrument rating. And one of the things I wanted to do with that, one of the driving forces to get that, was to be a PALS pilot. And PALS is Patient Airlift Services. So I have the opportunity to fly patients back and forth around the Northeast to and from their appointments. And great fun for me, and it's doing a service. So it's the classic win-win. So just stay active, be a good citizen.
Yeah, I mean, that's really commendable. I think many, what I will share is you're all going to be wealthy at some point. When you graduate, you'll have a job, you'll build successful careers, but you don't have to be wealthy to feel poor in terms of giving back, right? We all say that, when there's excess money, and it's not only money. As Mr. Sweeney said, time, right, which you all have, and small things. I'll share a story. I grew up in Mumbai, very humble beginnings in a 400 square foot apartment. And when we were going back, their street vendors give food. So we're there eating. Me and my wife are eating, and two little boys, 8 and 7, come up, and they're beggars. They come and beg. And I say, nope. When you grow up around poverty, you seem to accept it. So I completely ignored, and I just said, nope, not giving money, because that's how it was programmed. So they persist, and then they say, how about food? I've not eaten anything. I said, sure. I'll give you the food that we're eating. So I asked, whatever we were eating be served to them. Through that eating food, we have some conversations, and they say, can I get some bread or, to take home? So I said, they had me by now, right, through the conversation. So I said, sure. So we go walk to the store, and I saw their feet, and they were wearing no shoes or flip-flops. And they were completely covered in mud, right? So I come across, there's a shoe store right across. So then I tell them, let me buy you guys a pair of shoes. So they're fully excited by now. They got chocolates, they're right? And we go there, and they're walking in front of me, and the shopkeeper says, get out, before they even step in, because he assumes they're going in to beg. And I say, no, they're with me. We're just, sorry, sir, sorry. So they go in, and they're like my kids. They're so excited, right? They're looking at every pair of shoes, and then they pick the pair of shoes. Now, The magic I saw that day that I want to share with you is the shop completely changed. The workers there were so engaged with what happened that they went in, cleansed their feet, they're changing their shoes, giving them socks. And it was like Christmas or Hanukkah or Diwali, right? Because just that little act changed everything around. And that's what made me realize the power of giving back doesn't have to be monetary or wait until you've struck it big. Each one of us can do something profound in a small way. And if we do that, right, that's what will add up to, and you'll feel rich, I guarantee you that, because that changed my life, that experience, to start looking outwardly and change the course of my life to start engaging in different ways of service. So I'd say start engaging today.
In my opinion, I think one can be the best service to their community by being appreciative of your own blessings, counting your blessings, and being appreciative of what you have, because it's important to be aware that not everyone has those kind of same resources. And in a way, I learned that when I came to NJIT. I learned that being a Dorman scholar has equipped me with so many resources that some scholars don't have. And I made it a priority of mine to make sure that I can actively work to ensure that other scholars make use of those other resources as well. And I found that as through the Honors Student Council platform. I really worked to see that ensure that other students have opportunities such as study abroad, internships and co-ops, a robust academic curriculum through honors courses, because I was really grateful for the opportunities that I had. And I had the empathy, and I wanted to make sure that other scholars had those same opportunities, because they are life-changing. They're absolutely life-changing. Personally, I've grown so much professionally and personally, and I've made absolutely rewarding relationships, friendships, and I made memories that I'll never forget, and it's really changed me into a better person. And I'll take these lessons when I go forward into my professional career, but it's really about staying humble and understanding that not everyone else might have the resources that you have, and it's important to be grateful that you have the access to these resources, and also actively work to ensure that other people as well have these equitable resources as well. And that's how you can be a good citizen, like Mr. Sweeney mentioned before.
Thank you. Dan, do you want the last word on this question?
Well, certainly not the best word, but I think that I've learned through this experience that every one of us has some combination of time, talent, and treasure. And at different points in our career, we have different amounts of each of those. The university at NJIT has really been a leader, I think, in terms of teaching that by practicing what we preach. And one of the great things about the Dorman Honors College is that you get firsthand to see what the value of being a small part of solving the grand challenges in the world, whether it be hunger, global warming, forever chemicals, clean drinking water, or other issues. And so the more that we're able to give of our time, talent, and treasure, and being a part of the solution instead of just letting someone else do that, I think that's what Al Dorman would expect of each of us, and that's the key, really. So that would be my comment.
Thank you, Dan. So thank you to our panelists here today. We have one other things we want to do here. So Richard, if you would join me on this stage. Tamara, if you could grab those small items for me. So we spoke to the board has been Richard Schatzberg. I'm sorry, I should have. This is Richard's, right? Richard Schatzberg is the chairman of the Dorman College Board of Visitors right now, and it's been a great pleasure to serve with Richard. Now, this is your third year as chair.
Third year.
It's been a great pleasure working with Richard on the board. We want to, the board initiated a new tradition about 2 years, I guess, in your second year here, which is what we call the Dorman College Wall of Honor. And the first inductees into the Dorman College Wall of Honor were, of course, Albert Dorman and President Emeritus Bloom in that year as well. And so today we'd like to induct our third, fourth, and fifth member into the Dorman Wall of Honor. So if could have the...
Louis, could I just take 1 minute? I just wanted to
100%.
also tell my story of the first time I met Al Dorman.
Oh, yeah, please.
So I had just been voted onto the board, and thanks to Joel and Mike Smith and others, and I joined this meeting for the first time, and I had read about Al. So you heard Al was intimidating to meet, so I meet Al, and we're sitting in the board meeting, and Al raises his hand in the middle of the meeting and says, I want you to look around the room at yourself and tell me what you see. And the room went quiet, and Al said, I see a bunch of white men. And I was last man in the room. I thought my seat on the board was going to be short-lived. But I had the joy of following all of you as chair, so thank you so much. It's been an incredible honor. And just to get to know Al, I served as master of ceremony when he received the Presidential Medal of Honor, so I got to spend time with him and Joan, and it was just an amazing experience. Once you meet Al, you'll never forget him, so it's just a joy to be here today. So with that, what a great joy it is today. Occasionally in these crazy, busy weeks, we get a task that is an incredible joy and honor, and today is one of those for me. As you can tell, the people on our Board of Visitors are incredible. So today, we are honoring 3 of our members, as Louis said, with a position on the Wall of Fame, and the first is Bob Hillier. So.
Favorite bottle on martini.
It should have been. It should have been. I wish I could say that was a tall bottle of gin.
The next person that we're honoring is the person that I have the honor of taking his seat. And, again, what an easy job, because I got to follow in their footsteps. The job now is just to not mess it up. But Dick Sweeney, thank you so much for all your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And one more.
One more.
Thank you. And lastly, but certainly not least, is a friend who I've known since I joined the board, and I think even before possibly. He's just an amazing guy. Dan Henderson, thank you for your incredible service so many years.
Now I feel really left out that I can't get the bag.
I will deliver it in person, Dan.
Outstanding.
Maybe help you open it, too.
Thank you so much.
So I thank this incredible group of panelists for their service to the university and for joining us today. So just a round of applause for our panelists. And a round of applause, please, in memory of Al Dorman and the incredible contribution and legacy he has here, and our long and ongoing relationship with the incredible family, the Dorman family. So thank you to Laura and the Dorman family. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you all.